Hello and welcome to another edition of the BOE Book Club. It's Leon Street in the house with another awesome book to review. I hope you enjoyed our last episode all the way over in China. So let's move on, Adam, so let's switch things up. Let's move to, I'd like to go to, let's go to Japan. So I want to see some scenery of some cherry blossom, and then if you can move me to Mount Fuji, that would be cool. Yeah, I think the setting of that would be awesome for our next book, because I feel like we're going to get into a place of meditation with The One Thing. So today's book is The One Thing by Keller and Jay Papasan. It's a really awesome book. If you've got a copy, you may have either the yellow cover version or you may have the white cover version. There are two circling, and that generally happens. The #1 bestseller, New York Times bestseller and Wall Street Journal bestseller, so it's got some awards and accreditations. What I can say, guys, is that this was introduced to me by actually somebody we interviewed a few years ago on one of my other podcasts on SB Elevation by a guy called Chris Marr. And after interviewing him, he mentioned this book, so I bought a copy of the book, took a look, and I could see why he and many others have recommended The One Thing, the surprisingly simple truth behind extraordinary results. And before I even open the book and we get into it, I just want to go to one area of life for me. And if you're a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, I'm sure you can probably relate to this thing. I used to praise myself and champion myself on being able to do many things at once and always having many things on the go. And I used to feel like it was like a badge of honor on my kind of shoulders, you know, like soldiers have like, the stripes on the shoulder. And it was just like, I can manage different things, do all these different things. But actually what I've realized is that by doing all these different things, I never really pushed them to the limits of mastery or becoming a real expert in any given field. So there's things like the shiny magpie syndrome, you know, you see lots of different things and you kind of go off on that tangent, go off on this. And I realized that actually something wasn't quite right. But when I stumbled across this book, I soon came to an answer thanks to the authors. Now, The One Thing, it's a really powerful book. There's 3 key areas of the book, and it's broken down into different chapters. You've got the lies, they mislead and derail us. You've got #2, the truth, the simple path to productivity. Then you have extraordinary results, unlocking the possibilities within you. And you know, there's a lot of great things about this book, so let's dig into it. So first of all, The One Thing, it's all about how to focus, and if you know the acronym, it is follow one course until successful. And let's start off. So the authors use an analogy or a story from I think it's City Slickers, that's it, yeah. And there's this kind of older cowboy in the film, and they're all around the campfire, and the guy's name is Curly. So Curly reins his horse to a stop and turns in the saddle to face Mitch. So actually they're on the horses still. So Curly says, "Do you know what the secret of life is?" Mitch, "No, what?" Curly, "This," and holds up one finger. "Your finger's the answer to life." And Curly says, "One thing, just the one thing. You stick to that and everything else doesn't mean bleep." SHIT. For everybody listening, just in case you got kids around, guys. So Mitch, he says, "That's great, but what's the one thing?" Curly responds, "That's what you've got to figure out." So it's a really cool analogy from the film City Slickers. I actually watched that film, really good film, good comedy. But actually, even in comedy and in all walks of life, you can find the answers to really what things are all about, but the one thing. And so in the book, he then breaks down the focus of what the one thing is, and what he stumbles across is that you can't do this alone. You can't become a successful, business owner. You can't become a successful whatever alone. So for instance, if you want to be an actor, if you want to be a writer, it takes other people to be involved in a project, publishers, whatever. If you're going to be an actor, it's going to take a manager. It's going to take, going to acting school where you've got a coach or a mentor or somebody who can take you to that next level. And what he stumbled across was actually the story of Jesus, and the fact that Jesus didn't do it alone. He had 12 disciples. But what he actually says, or what the authors actually say, is that Jesus got it wrong. He didn't need 12. They've stumbled across the number that he needed 14 to actually be ultra successful and get extraordinary results. So, you know, it's a really good way to tie in, I suppose, religion, but it's more focused on the fact that, you know, we don't get there alone, we need support. And so let's go to my next port of call. Number 2, the domino effect. So what they then talk about is the domino effect, and the fact that one domino can topple the next, and the next domino could actually be 50% larger. And so what they focus on here is, and hopefully you can zoom into this, Adam, is that when you're stacking up your dominoes of where you want to get to, i.e. the milestones, the steps leading to your big goal, is that all you've got to do is start with the small steps. So it's almost like the quote, I forgot who says it, but you know, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one. And it's the same thing with the dominoes. You know, all you've got to do is set your milestones that allow you to step up and move towards the bigger goal that you have. And they use this domino effect, and the domino effect comes from Lorne Whitehead, who wrote in the American Journal of Physics about how you can topple a domino that is actually 50% bigger than the previous domino. But the whole point is that you can then get to a point where you're not just going after something small, but you can actually go and touch the moon with your goals. So it's, you know, it's a way of breaking down the kind of logical side of, you know, what's focus all about. But the point is that you go for one thing because there's only one person, i.e. you. So there should only either be one product or one service, and you know, success leaves clues. The one thing I like about this book is that actually there's a lot of underlining, but it's actually part of the print. I haven't done this, and so it's good because it draws your attention to different things, and then every kind of few pages or chapters there's a quote, and they're pretty good quotes actually, and they all obviously relate to each section of the book. So here's one of the quotes: "It is those who concentrate on but one thing at a time who advance in this world," and that's from O.G. Mandino. So, you know, lots of great content. So let me give you another example. So just to give you some context, what companies use the one thing as a rule? Well, as an example, you've got Google. They're known for search, but search and growing, you know, as the number one has allowed them to sell advertising, you know, to the sum of billions. Then another example would be Star Wars, the film. What is it known for? Being a film. But what does it sell by, you know, the droves, the billions? Merchandise. So, you know, Star Wars clothing, Star Wars toys, video games, lots of different things. Then you've got another example like Apple. What is it known for? Well, it's known for the latest design tech, the innovator of design. You know, what's really interesting again is that when Apple release products, they're generally not the first company to bring that product to market, but it's their unique design and the fact that the brand is known for, you know, the groundbreaking design, why people flock to them and become raving fans. So I remember actually just going back when, the iPod come out. It wasn't the first MP3 player on the market. It wasn't actually the first by any, even being close. It was pretty late to the market, but just the way that it was designed, the look, the feel. And then the same thing happened with the iPad. There were other tablet computers on the market, but the iPad, again, revolutionized the industry because of the design and I'm sure the functionality. So let's move on. They then go into areas of, you know, the one thing, and the fact that the one thing is all about focusing on the one thing. And what they bring up is that multitasking is a lie. So, you know, some people pride themselves, like I said, I did earlier, doing lots of different things. It's a lie. It's not actually possible, because it's like ones and zeros. Your brain fluctuates either between one thing or the other. And there's some really great examples, and you know, even if people say, oh yes, it is possible, they go into the science of it, and that's what really gets me, is that they really break things down in a scientific way, but not in a boring way, but in a way that's actually exciting, that makes you want to read. So here it is, another quote: "Multitasking is merely the opportunity to screw up more than one thing at a time." That's by Steve Uzzell. So, you know, take it as you will, but I agree. And then they move into this thing called big ideas, whereby at the end of each chapter they have a summary and they highlight the main things that you're going through in the content. And here's another area. So let me just find the section that I wanted to get to. So they're then talking about, you know, willpower. And with willpower, you need enough willpower the rest of the day to either support or avoid sabotaging what you've done in the day. And so there's some real good content on, you know, really finding what you need in your life in order to have, you know, the focus, in order to do the one thing. So the next thing is balance, and this is all about work-life balance, and they really go into this, and this was a kind of new concept to me, because you always hear it, you know, you grow up and then you're in business and you hear people say, yeah, I've got the perfect work-life balance, or I'm targeting or after the work-life balance. And what they actually break down is that there isn't a work-life balance. What there is something called counterbalance. So when you gamble with your time, you may be placing a bet you can't cover. So here it is. So if achieving life balance is a lie, then what do? It's called counterbalance. And the reason for that is some people have a different emphasis on what matters more to them. So they don't think life and then business. Some people they love more of business compared to the other stuff going on in their life, and vice versa. And so actually it's only ever counterbalance and what it means to you. Next thing is big is bad. But actually in the book they talk about big is actually good. But you know, people here, don't go too big, it's going to cause you lots of problems. You know, don't think too big, you might set yourself up for a fall. That's the naysayers, guys. And what they speak about is some great examples. Look at J.K. Rowling. She, before she started even writing, realized that she was going to do 7 years of Hogwarts, meaning 7 books. She was already thinking big before the first one was written. Then the other one is the example of Guinness, you know, the famous drink from Ireland. When the guy first signed his first lease, he signed a 9,000-year lease. Look at the business now. Go figure, guys. Go big. So the book then is, I would say it's pretty much known for this real key milestone in the book. It's called the focusing question. It's like, how do you find focus? There's actually a quote, and I'm going to read it. Hopefully I don't take too long. And sorry, it's a poem, and it's by the poem is My Wage by J.B. Rittenhouse. Here it is. I bargained with life for a penny, and life would pay no more. However, I begged that evening when I counted my scanty score. For life is just an employer. He gives you what you ask, but once you set the wages, why, you must bear the task. I worked for a menial's hire, only to learn, dismayed, that any wage I had asked for of life would have willingly paid. Go big, guys. Life will pay you if you focus. So the focusing question, here it is. What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? That's your focusing question, guys. If you're wondering, I can't get focus, how do I focus? The next part is goal setting in the now. Again, if you can kind of zoom into this, I'm going to remove this post-it note. And what this page, what this section teaches you about is how you forward or fast forward to where your goals are going to be, let's say 5 years, and then how you track it back to now, how you make it relevant. So it's a really cool point that they raise. Right, getting towards my last post-it note. So the next thing is, got to go back a little bit. So if you're going to focus, you got to put the work in. Yeah. So the key to making this work is to block time as early in your day as possible. Yeah. Give yourself 30 minutes to an hour to take care of morning priorities, then move to your one thing. My recommendation, what I have in the book, is to block 4 hours a day. This isn't a typo. I repeat, 4 hours a day. Honestly, that's the minimum. If you can do more, then do it. That's the answer, guys. Focus and take action. So the one thing, Gary Keller, Jay Papasan, I've read it. I'm sure I'm going to read it again at some point. It's a really great book, and it really showed me the power of actually focusing on the one thing. My book score for this particular book out of 10 is 9 out of 10. Guys, go and get a copy. The link should be below. If you haven't read it, or even if you have read it, I'd love to see your comments below the video. Share this video, like it. I just want to say thank you for watching this week's episode of the BOE Book Club here in Japan. Thank you.